Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson, thank you so much. Welcome back to Ion Politics.
It's good to be back, Jack.
So when you look at this week's headlines, it's been a challenging week, and that's putting it mildly, for downtown Dallas. The Dallas Stars are moving out of downtown. They're going to Plano. Looks like it. The Dallas Mavericks, while staying in Dallas, they're moving up to the old Valley View Mall site in far north Dallas. Neiman Marcus says it's closing its downtown store after it's been here for 118 years. This comes after AT&T announced it's moving its headquarters out of downtown and going to Plano. What's going on here?
Well, I think each one of those situations is unique, and they need to be taken separately and thought about separately. I mean, they all affect downtown, which affects Dallas, so they have that in common. But there are different circumstances surrounding each one. So let's take the Neiman Marcus situation first, the last one first. The Neiman Marcus is of the ones that you just mentioned, the news stories from this past week that you just mentioned, is the only one that, to my understanding, is a final decision. I mean, that is something that is a product of a long analysis that company has undergone of the profitability of their stores while they've been in bankruptcy. And they've just come to the conclusion that they can't carry that store anymore. It's been a loss leader for them. That store's not profitable. And that's something that I've talked to the CEO about extensively, and that's a business decision. And it's one that I know a lot of people in this city, including myself, will regret and lament and be very sad about, because it's been such a part of our city's history. But the reality is they've got 2 stores in Dallas, and the store at North Park is one of their top performing stores in the entire corporation. And they are going to invest more, actually, in the North Park store. The North Park store makes them a lot of money. In fact, it's some multiple, maybe 10 times what the downtown store was bringing in. So that wasn't some referendum on downtown. That's a referendum on the shopping patterns of Dallasites and what that company is focusing on, which is they had gotten, according to their CEO, they had a little bit of mission creep at the company, and we're starting to get into real estate and a bunch of other things. They want to go back to being a retailer, and they are looking at every store in terms of, does this store make money or not? And their Dallas store downtown was not making money, and it hadn't made money for a while, and they made the decision coming out of their bankruptcy to close it. So again, that story impacts downtown, but it's not really a downtown story. It's a retail math story. As far as the sports teams, those are 2 very different scenarios as well, but I will tell you, they're also not final decisions either. I've been listening to a lot of people, wanting to let people emote and talk about it, but I deal, as you know, in facts and reality. And sure, this is a situation where we are going to have to work very hard, but I'm not afraid of working hard. And we've been working hard, and we are going to continue to work hard to try to work out arrangements with both the Stars and the Mavericks to have them stay in Dallas. And I will tell you, the Valley View site that the Mavericks are looking at, it's in Dallas. That's a good thing. Let's start with that. But as far as the Stars are concerned, that negotiation, from my understanding, that is a letter of intent. It's not a final deal. It's certainly a step, but it's not a final step. And the Mavericks arrangement at Valley View is an option. And so it's not a final deal either. And so I think all of these conversations are dynamic and are going to continue. And we are going to continue. The city manager and I have talked extensively about this. She is still in regular daily contact, basically, with both teams about options with respect to the Stars in particular to stay at the American Airlines Center. That is still a goal of mine, for them to continue to be at the American Airlines Center.
But aren't the chances of them staying really slim to none at this point?
I can't say that. I can't speak for them and say that.
Right?
No, I can't say that. But what I will tell you is this: these are business decisions, and they're going to be made for business reasons. I can't speak for them, but here's what I can tell you: the sports business has definitely changed over the years. And these deals are a lot more complicated than they used to be. This isn't a simple landlord-tenant contract with negotiating concession shares and parking and rent, and that's it. These are now deals that are complicated because a lot of these sports teams now, their ownership wants to do more than just own a sports team. They want to be in the real estate business, or the hotel business, or the restaurant business. They want to own real estate, and they want to control areas beyond the arena, and they want to get involved in more things. Those are things that we are actually having to work through and talk about what we are capable of doing and what we are not capable of doing. And so those discussions are complicated, and they're not as simple as, do we want them or do we not want them, or is it a priority? It's definitely a priority. We definitely want our sports teams to play here, but these negotiations are complicated. So I would tell everyone to let us continue to work.
You said at the council meeting yesterday, quote, "The knives are out for our city. The knives are out for Dallas. I wasn't crying wolf. The wolf is at the door, and the wolf is not in this room. The wolf is up the tollway." Yesterday, some residents blamed you and other city leaders for this happening. Are they right?
Well, I didn't hear any blame directed directly at me or directly at the city. I think there's a frustration that there doesn't seem to. There was a string of news this past week that I think rightfully has people concerned. But the truth of the matter is certainly the city manager and I know others, have been paying attention and focused on this issue of how we revitalize downtown for a while. And so I think, the resident maybe that you're thinking of, or some of the folks you heard at the meeting, were really downtown residents who were wondering, is the city even focused and trying to keep these teams in the urban core and trying to revitalize downtown? The answer is absolutely we are. Absolutely we are. But I do think that there are folks on the Dallas City Council who needed this week's string of news stories to understand something that I've understood for a while, which is we are in a competition. This is serious. And that I've been saying for years, and that's what I meant when I said, the wolf is at the door, is that this wasn't, I wasn't being rhetorical when I was saying all these years that we have municipalities surrounding our city who would like the assets that are in Dallas to relocate to their municipalities. And I think we see now with these, again, letters of intent or letters of intent. Intent, that's a verb that means, you are trying to do something. It's not a fait accompli, but that states to me that they are playing hardball up in Plano with that letter of intent. And so I hope that the city council members who have not believed up to now that we are in a serious competition understand that. And that we need to, as a council, and this is what I meant when I said the wolf is not in this room, we've got to stop questioning each other's motives and integrity at the Horseshoe. We've got to stop questioning the experts that are bringing us data. And I know the last time we talked, I told you, I'm not fighting with this data. I believe this data. Let's now come together and compete the best we can and come up with the best deal terms that we possibly can to keep our sports teams and to keep everybody else we can here. And if we lose a fair and square competition, we lose a fair and square competition.
Well, hasn't the city of Dallas put forward its best plan already to both teams? I mean, what more is there to offer?
Well, I think, again, complicated, and each one of these situations is different. But I think when it comes to the Stars, for example, I think that deal is complicated by the fact that they are in a co-tenancy with another team right now, and that those two teams have been in litigation between the two of them. There's questions about who controls that asset going forward, and I think anytime you have that type of uncertainty, that certainly affects the attractiveness of a potential deal. So, with respect to the Stars and the American Airlines Center, there's no question that the questions about future control over that venue have factored into their willingness to look elsewhere. And that's what I want to emphasize. I can't guarantee how this is going to ultimately turn out with any of these teams, but I can tell you this, you did not see in the news anywhere, I didn't at least, where anyone has said, I've seen reporting that has come to the conclusion, similar to what you kind of implied, that isn't this essentially a done deal? Well, that's like saying I intend to walk down the aisle with that young lady. It's like intending to walk down the aisle and walking down the aisle and putting a ring on her finger and saying I do are two different things. letters of intent and option agreements are not final deals. And so we are continually in conversations with these sports teams until these deals are final about remaining in Dallas.
Has there been a concrete offer for them to stay in downtown Dallas, both teams?
I know this. Deal terms are being negotiated with the city manager and the leadership of both of those teams. And I can't tell you exactly where they are in those negotiations because that's not something that we actually can talk about publicly, but I will tell you this. There are active negotiations occurring between the both parties and their authorized negotiators, if you will.
So, 4 sites downtown to keep them both in downtown?
Well, with the Stars, our focus has been on the American Airlines Center. And with the Mavericks, by their own statement up until recently, they have been looking at a couple of sites in Dallas. And so I can tell you that the Mavericks and the Stars are in a little different situation. We, with respect to the Mavericks, Valley View is in Dallas. Valley View is a viable option for them, obviously, which is why they're pursuing it. But I personally believe that both of our sports teams potentially have a future in the urban core, and we are going to continue to explore those options until they are not options anymore.
But just to clarify, make sure I'm hearing you correctly, Mayor, you're saying that the Dallas Stars actively considered and still may stay at the American Airlines Center in Dallas?
I'm saying to my knowledge, and like I said, I talk to the city manager pretty much every day about this and have been for a while, we have not stopped our negotiations and our conversations, bilateral negotiations with the Dallas Stars about remaining at the American Airlines Center. That is still an active conversation. That has not been summarily dismissed.
And as it relates to the Mavericks, you're saying at this point, you think that it's pretty much, they're going to definitely go up to the old Valley View site?
I can't say what they're definitely going to do other than they've stated their intent, intent to remain in the city of Dallas. They've expressed, they've stated they've signed an option agreement to be at Valley View, which is not inherently a bad thing. But I also do not want to get out in front of them and say that if a downtown site were available to them, that they would summarily dismiss that. I can't say that for them. But I think that I personally believe, I will tell you what I personally would like to see, which again is not speaking for them, is speaking from my perspective. There is an opportunity potentially to solve a lot of challenges for downtown, to do something that's good for the taxpayers, to do something that's good for the fans, and do something that's good for these sports teams if they remain in the urban core.
And so I was going back. I know that this has obviously been on your radar for a while. Back 4 years ago, you created the ad hoc committee on professional sports recruitment and retention.
It's been on my radar for a long time.
And you also chaired it for 1 or 2 times, if I remember correctly.
To get it started,
I
might have been the initial chair, if I recall.
And in that announcement, you said this was to keep both the Stars and the Mavericks in Dallas. You said, quote, the Texas Rangers' new stadium should have been built in downtown Dallas. You went on to say the city of Dallas boasts incredible assets and presents amazing opportunities for any professional sports franchises. We must be more proactive, assertive, and strategic. Was there any way to create, even if there wasn't an opening, open space, to create something for both of these teams to stay downtown?
Well, I guess in theory, I can answer your question by saying yes, but it was always going to be dependent on what the teams wanted. And here's, I guess, that we could go down this path a long way if we wanted. I'm not sure how much time you want to go down the evolution of sports business, but I will tell you this. The American Airlines Center, which is an existing venue that both of those teams are playing in currently, it's an interesting situation. by today's standards, by today's what an NBA franchise or an NHL franchise wants to build today, the building is out of date. It is obsolete in many ways. And so what these teams are evaluating are the costs associated with renovating, updating, modernizing, however you want to phrase it, versus just starting over again. And so those are internal discussions that they're having. And as a city, what we are constrained by is both what they're trying to accomplish, which again is not like the old days, which is they just want favorable lease terms and a good split on the concessions and the parking. If they want to do other things, an entertainment district, hotels, restaurants, bars, whatever, then they need larger and larger parcels of land. Those are harder to find.
Yeah.
And it's also the case that, in terms of the existing asset that we're talking about in the case of the American Airlines Center, what it can be brought up to modern standards to look like in terms of what other arenas that other teams in the league are competing with. And so that's why this is a complicated
Well, I guess that's what
dance.
Understanding that, I guess that's what I was asking, given the fact that they want to have like what the Cowboys have created up in Frisco. Given all that, was there no way to try to put out an all points bulletin for developers in the city of Dallas, downtown, whatever, to come up, get all your developers, and come up with something, having a summit of sorts to try to find space for both teams?
Well, there's only so much space, I guess, in what we would consider the urban core, right in downtown to do something like that. Downtown Dallas is pretty built out, and that's another dynamic of this that is just a reality. Again, so another theme here would be having to deal with the business realities of the city of Dallas is an older and more mature city from a construction standpoint, a lot more built out. And what you have in the suburbs in a lot of places is really a blank canvas to work from. And so, we are having to compete the very best we can with what is available space, what is available to piece together. And so the advantage of the American Airlines Center is that it exists and that you're starting with something already. The disadvantage is it's not as large of a piece of land as some people would want, depending on what they wanted to do. So again, it's a complicated negotiation. We're going to continue to work on that as an option for the Stars in particular. But again, this is a very, very complicated business now, and it's much bigger than just a landlord-tenant situation.
I do want to talk about the future of City Hall, but
Sure.
I have a couple more questions about just downtown overall. And that is, as far as AT&T is concerned, they said, they were leaving. Homelessness was an issue.
I don't recall AT&T saying that.
Well, that's what's been reported, and the governor said that. And so I'm just wondering, the governor said that downtown has the second highest vacancy rate of office in the country. So even the governor said the city needs to rethink what it's doing downtown. Would you agree with that?
I don't recall the governor.
He just said it last week.
I don't recall the governor saying exactly that, but I do know this. I do know that the situation downtown has been improving for years, frankly, but certainly since Chief Como's come on, he's taken very seriously reducing crime downtown. I know the numbers of unhoused folks downtown has gone down significantly, but AT&T never said that they left because of homelessness or like that, and that's just a narrative, I think, that is false and needs to end. AT&T made it very clear that they were looking for a horizontal campus, more acreage than they were on downtown or that's even available downtown, and we've seen the renderings of what they wanted to do. I mean, that was not going to be able to be achieved downtown, and so that's the story, I think, with AT&T. They wanted something different, and which is fine, and that's their prerogative. Downtown has challenges that, in my mind, have nothing to do with crime and homelessness. It has to do with what people are looking for at this point, both from when you think about the commercial applications of these buildings were built at a time when people really wanted to be near each other. They needed to be physically close to their accountants, their lawyers, their bankers, whatnot. And you had the concept of a central business district. And frankly, we, in a way, did too well. We built a lot of very tall buildings to accommodate those commercial uses. That's not the way business is really done anymore. People don't need to be in any one place to do business. We have people now officing everywhere from Victory and the North End to the Crescent and Uptown to Old Parkland, all over. And so then the question becomes, well, what could downtown Dallas be? What should it be? And I think the downtowns that we see that have done well are the ones that, frankly, didn't build as much originally. They were smaller downtowns to begin with, so they had something closer to a blank slate to start with. And they have pivoted more towards a residential live, work, play type of downtown with more entertainment options, more residential options, more restaurants, more bars, more music venues and things like that, which is why I think we are at a point now where we're just dealing with what some of the more successful cities are dealing with that really overbuilt their downtowns in the 80s. And I say overbuilt, I mean for today. They served a purpose at one time. What we need to now do is pivot to a different kind of downtown. Downtown needs to change. And I think that's just a reality. Again, a business reality.
Let's talk about the future of City Hall. Earlier this week in a statement about City Hall, you said, we must fight for the city of tomorrow rather than worship decaying, outdated government buildings from bygone eras. Obviously, you were talking about this very building.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
So my question to you is, have you decided now that the city should move on from this building, move City Hall, bulldoze this, sell the land?
So Jack, I think the last time we talked, we were still in the I need to see numbers mode. And I said I have no reason to question, what AECOM, I think, or the numbers we'd seen at that point, but I want to see all the facts before I can make a decision about what we ought to do. So what's happened since the last time we talked? We've had another set of consultants come and basically look at what we asked AECOM to look at, because there were people on the council who I really can't understand why they felt like it was a good idea to publicly question the integrity or the intent of the consultants who gave us those numbers, but they did. So we brought in another set of consultants, completely unrelated to the first, that basically confirmed that not only were the first consultants' numbers completely reasonable in the ballpark, but may have been low estimates for how much it would cost to actually repair this building. So, we've gotten more data that suggests that it would be even more expensive than we thought to just bring this building up to good repair. Not to modernize it and make it amazing and make it a great, comparable building to what we could get in the market today, but just to fix what's broken. The initial estimates were low. So we've got more numbers there. We also have more data now that we've talked about in executive session, can't share publicly, that suggests that there are alternatives in the market, in the central business district and around the central business district, where we could actually locate City Hall and it would cost us less money than repairing this place. In other words, we could actually save the taxpayers of Dallas significant money by actually moving out of this building and choosing not to undergo at least, I'm just going to ballpark it, roughly the average of these estimates for repair, at least $500 million or so in minimal repairs. But when you add in the other costs, you start approaching that $1 billion figure. Again, the numbers have now been proven multiple times to be accurate, and it would be very costly to stay. And so I would be in favor, for sure, of us saving the taxpayers considerable money by leaving this obsolete building. That would make this location available for development, which I would also support, because I believe that would be a very, very big part of the future of downtown and its revitalization. I think that's a very key element to that revitalization. So in case people are trying to keep track, yes to moving out of this building into another building, and yes to redeveloping this site.
So As far as the council, do you have 8 votes to move on from this place?
I can't tell you how many votes we have, and what people. I don't really do that, but I have. Here's what I believe. I believe that I am not alone, especially not now. And maybe this week made a difference. I don't know, but I'm confident that we have enough voices around here now to appreciate exactly what's at stake here for downtown. I mean, I think people now understand loud and clear that the surrounding municipalities are not just going to sit idly by and wait and see what we do. They are actively courting sports teams, businesses, and everything else. And you know what? I'm with Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, who said there is no divine right to success in this world. Not for a company and not for a city. He was talking to the current mayor of New York, or directing those remarks to him, and was explaining why the mayor of New York's attitude of this is New York, where are these companies really going to leave? It's it's sort of relying on history and legacy. Jamie Dimon was pointing out that 10,000 jobs have left New York and gone to Texas during his watch, and it's for a reason. It's because we're going to go where the competition pushes us. That's the attitude I have towards my own city as it relates to our surrounding municipalities. We have to compete, and I think now we have enough people who understand that making our downtown a vibrant downtown again is a critical part of our being able to compete.
Do you think the city should lease another building downtown or buy?
I think that we would need to run numbers on various scenarios, but whatever scenario we chose and I would support would be one that would save the taxpayers money versus staying here, and would make this building site available for redevelopment to kickstart the redevelopment and the revitalization of downtown, and to help us stitch together it's already some great assets downtown, between what we're going to do at the convention center, what's happening in the East Quarter and Farmers Market, what's already happening in the Arts District, what's already happening with Clyde Warren. If we can connect all this together, I think we have a great downtown. But this government center that shuts down at 5 p.m. every day, this sort of dead space between the convention center and the farmers market and the northern parts of the central business district, if we could fill this in with something exciting and vibrant, an entertainment district of some sort of activity that gets people down here 24/7, I think this will be an amazing downtown, and that's what I'm focused on.
Next steps?
I mean, Jack, I think that the next step is we need to move quickly toward making a decision as a council on whether or not we are going to leave this building. And I think that is the very next thing we are going to do. I think at this point, Jack, and I have more patience than anybody for getting data and being methodical about analyzing it. We've heard enough. We've heard enough between what we've heard in public in terms of the costs associated with being here and what we've heard in executive session. I think we're now ready to move to an actual decision. That's what we need to do, and we need to do it quickly.
Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.